Now, there are stories aplenty about Pete Hegseth and desperately trying to get rid of Pete Hegseth at the Department of Defense. I read today that, and I've got a lawfare stack that's a mile high of judges ordering the Trump administration to change this or change that, and Victor Davis Hanson has written brilliantly about it. But as you well know, the target now is Pete Hegseth. They couldn't do it with Trump himself, up to and including trying to kill him. They really couldn't do it with Elon Musk and Doge, even though they tried to burn down his Tesla dealerships. They can't seem to figure out an inroad here. They tried with Signalgate. Didn't work. They're back at it again. The ox that's being gored here, and you should know that when you're talking about Pete Hegseth in the Department of Defense, it's sadly not just Democrats. I think you know this by now. It's Republicans, too. There is a bipartisan effort to make sure that Trump doesn't get too deep into the business of the Department of Defense. Pete Hegseth represents one of the greatest threats to institutionalism in Washington, D.C., and it's why we continue to be treated, to everyone from the New York Times to even the Wall Street Journal, attacks on Pete Hegseth's integrity. Today, yet again, here's another headline: polygraph threats, leaks, and infighting. Pete Hegseth rattled by Pentagon chaos. Pentagon chaos. Word has leaked that he was planning a classified briefing for Elon Musk on China, a revelation that infuriated President Trump and raised alarms inside the Pentagon, given Musk's business ties to Beijing. Now, do you believe that Pete Hegseth was going to brief? Just fast, Eddie, I always like to ask these questions of you. Just get an honest, knee-jerk reaction. Do you believe Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth was going to brief Elon Musk privately on our defense strategies with China, unbeknownst to Donald Trump, and when Donald Trump heard about it, he threw down his Diet Coke or whatever and said, "What the hell's this about? Hegseth, you better not be having meetings with Elon Musk privately without my knowledge, damn it." Do you believe that happened?
I don't believe that at all, Chris. No, of course not.
I think that's utterly preposterous. I think it is absolutely preposterous. Pete Hegseth, if ever there were a Trump loyalist, and you can say maybe even to a fault, if you wanted, that's not my position, but if there were a Trump loyalist in this cabinet, more tried and true loyal, I'd like to know who he or she is than Pete freaking Hegseth to Donald Trump. Do you think Pete Hegseth is... That would be a good friend of this show, good friend of mine personally, Sebastian Gorka. Dr. G values his relationship with Donald Trump and this administration and his service to country more, almost more, than his beloved family. Not quite as much, but it's right up there. I think it's Katie and his kids, and then second to that, and it's a tight, close second, his love of this country and service to this country via this president. He wakes every day mission-focused to serve the American people, and that is to serve at the pleasure of Donald Trump. It has been... ever since I've known him over years, in the first administration and now this one, it has been his, I think I can safely say without exaggeration, I'll ask him maybe next week because he's coming on the show to talk about the 100 days. I don't think I've ever met a guy that has more bled red, white, and blue who's not an American-born person than Sebastian Gorka. So for me to read this, and I know a little bit about Pete Hegseth, and I think he's much the same way, and I think Seb would confirm this. You want me to believe that Pete Hegseth, now with this job that was extraordinarily tough to get, I'll remind you, Capitol Hill was full of Republicans that didn't want him, and he hung in there, and you remember how they tried to take him out before confirmation hearings even got underway. Do you remember? You might forget that. We were treated all these stories about how he was drunk and, taking women out of the hotel room bar, and a woman pledges she was, she never could establish the story was true, that she was attacked, and ex-wives, and remember all that? We forget because the news cycle is constant. They tried to not even get him to confirmation hearings. He said, "Screw you, I'm staying the course." Trump said, "Screw you, we're staying the course." He got through confirmation hearings by a whisker. In fact, I would say, surprisingly, it was more difficult to get him confirmed than Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr. That's how much establishment Washington hates him. Former Democrats, the former vice chair of the Democrat Party, was more swiftly confirmed by Republicans than Pete freaking Hegseth from Fox News. That's how much they hate this guy, and I don't think we should ever forget it. So now he gets in, he's there for a few weeks, and Signalgate erupts. Incidentally, I won't forget my place, but let me ask you this question while we're at it, Fast Eddie. Trump posted on Truth Social yesterday, speaking of Signalgate, he has agreed to sit down with Jeffrey Goldberg at The Atlantic to give him an interview and a profile in The Atlantic. Good idea, bad idea? He preemptively said, hey, I know this guy already stuck a knife in me once. He says they want to write a real piece about the first 100 days and all we've accomplished. I'm going to give him a chance. Going to try it. We're going to see what happens. He's already preemptively telling the audience he knows he's walking in to perhaps a trap, but he's giving Goldberg a chance. What do you make of that? And is that a mistake?
Personally, I like it. It's Trump's style. The only thing is that with or without Susie Wiles present, I don't want him thinking that this guy Goldberg's going to be his friend, like the Bob Woodward thing. You know, like he's
That's
not going to be
exactly
winning him
right.
over. So
when these guys tell you, see, this is a trick they use now, because they do play it. Trump likes the idea that adversaries might say something nice. He likes that. That's why he brings people like Bill Maher into the White House. It's why he continues to bring Joe and Mika in. He brings these people in because he believes, correctly most times, he can win somebody over if he sits and actually meets them one-on-one. Trump has an amazing ability to win people over and charm them, and it makes others really mad. It's why Larry David most recently wrote the editorial, and I didn't read it this week because it was ridiculous, but he wrote this whole editorial in the New York Times mocking Bill Maher for saying, Trump's not a bad guy. I sat with dinner, and we got along famously, and he's really actually quite decent, and I don't hate his guts, even though I disagree with him politically. Larry David wrote this whole thing about, I had dinner with Hitler, and he was really nice. So people that wouldn't even entertain talking with him, they hate Jeffrey Goldberg for even walking into the White House to have this conversation just as much, mind you. So my trepidation, my apprehension for Trump going into this is just as great as many on the left who think Goldberg is a hero for writing this garbage Signalgate piece. So back to Hegseth. Here he has, for whatever reason, been included in this signal chat between high-level officials about the Houthi attacks. He writes this scathing editorial about how, can you believe I was privy to all this top-secret stuff? And they pumped it, and they pumped it, and they pumped it. It didn't work. So they've pivoted to Albrego Garcia for a while down in El Salvador. That's not working. We're back to Hegseth to round out the week. Albrego Garcia is slowly, have you noticed? It's starting to slowly move away. Back to Hegseth. That's how we're going to close out the week. For Hegseth, an episode marking a turning point in an already rocky tenure, writes the Wall Street Journal. Coming just days after revelations that the former Fox News host had shared sensitive military information in an unsecured group chat on Signal, the leaks deepened his frustrations and eroded his trust in his close circle of advisors. Problems have snowballed from there. So see now Pete is surrounded by people he doesn't trust. And he's firing everybody right and left. And now they're going out and they're talking to the press and they're saying, oh, Pete Hegseth's crazy. He's mad at all of us. He doesn't trust any of us. He's firing all of us. It's chaos in there. Is it? Is it, or are you all institutionalists and you've been sniffed out? And so they're writing these stories that Trump's mad at Hegseth for this, and there's chaos inside. Nobody knows what's going on right and left. It's so dishonest. It's gross. Hegseth this week already stood there on the White House lawn at the Easter egg roll. If Trump is fuming at Pete Hegseth, do you think Hegseth is standing there in his Easter bonnet with all the frills upon it, with Trump and the bunny guy in the suit, having some yucks with the kids? Do you think Hegseth is standing around at the Easter parade on the White House lawn this week if Hegseth and Trump are at odds? I don't think so. I don't buy it. Hegseth said Trump and I are like this. There's no daylight between us. But they're trying to drive this home because they want a scalp here. They want him out. And yet, here's the only thing that really matters. Headline: military recruitment surges under Defense Secretary Hegseth. The Army has gained 24,000 active components for the fiscal year of 2025. 100% up for Space Force. 106% up for Marines. Over 100 for Navy. Hegseth's kicking butt, and they know it.
For full shows, live and on demand, it's Salem News Channel.